Hey, Dane,
Hey Doyle, how you doing?
where are you at? That looks pretty.
I'd love to say I'm in sunny South Florida, but I'm in cloudy North Florida, so I got a bad background to pretend
Oh, that's
I'm in
very
a good spot.
sad. Very
Oh
sad.
well.
Well, listen, we appreciate you joining us today. For those of you who might not know Dane Gregory, Dane is one of our industry's most foremost experts in hard surface care. He teaches an ICRC school class. I'm sure he'll share more with you on the how to do that if you want to get IICRC certified in stone maintenance. He also works for Carpet Cleaner America, which I mentioned is the leading manufacturer of counter rotating brush machines. But best of all, he's a nice guy, and he and I have been friends a long time. So we both operate by the idea that you can, your best friends are the ones who know stuff about you who can get you in trouble. So you got to stay best
Hmm.
friends with them, right, Dane?
That's why I'm here, Doyle.
All right, good. Well, we're looking forward to you sharing some of your wisdom with us today. A lot of interest, as you can see, with the number of questions that they were grilling Scott with. And I'm sure they'll have, if we have time for questions, we'll do it. If we don't, maybe we'll follow up and do this again sometime. For those of you, I just wanted to, one other thing I wanted to point out. Dane and I did a webinar together about 8 months ago now on hard surface floors and selling on hard surface floors. If you'd
Hmm.
like to take a look at that, it's on HydraMaster University, which is at hydramaster.com/university. So if you're interested in what he has to say, there's more information there. And also, we do owe everybody another prize giveaway, which is an Evolution upholstery tool. We're going to do that with Sean when he comes back on. So, Dane, we're going to turn it over to you now and let's roll.
Wonderful. Hey, and I want to answer actually a quick question as to why you always have me follow guys like Scott Warrington, who gives so much great information in such a short amount of time. I really appreciate listening to him. I always learn something whenever I'm listening to Scott. So thanks for having him on in front of me. I really appreciate that. So as Doyle mentioned, I'm with Carpet Cleaner America. I do training. Obviously, we're doing everything virtually now, but I do a lot of training. And what Doyle asked me to do with this HydraMaster Virtual Expo is to talk about how the CRB machine, as Scott mentioned on the hardwood side, how the CRB machine kind of fits into that hard surface category and different things we can do. So I'm going to break it down a little bit and kind of show you what that machine is all about and how it works, and even get into, we got some new video that nobody else has seen yet. You're the first group that's ever going to see this, as to how those brushes actually impact everything when they get right down on the floor. So we got some slow motion video that I want to get into when I show you that. The CRB machine by Carpet Cleaner America was actually built to work on carpet. It kind of works similar to the hosts process out there, where you put a dry compound product down on the carpet, you brush it in, and then you put our renovator trays on and you brush it out, and the carpet should come out to be relatively clean. And we enjoyed that for a long period of time. And my partner Reg got involved in one of the Mikey's Fests. And I don't know exactly how it happened, but Reg got there to one of the Ronald McDonald homes that the Mikey's Fest group always goes, and they do a clean for them for free, also to do some training for some of the folks that are there. And all of the carpet had been staked out by other manufacturers and other vendors that were there. And so he took some of our dry compound product and he put it down on a site finished hardwood floor. And if you listen to what Scott was saying, site finished means it went down as raw wood, it was sanded, it was stained, and it was coated with polyurethane, meaning that all the gaps in between the boards were filled at that point. It was just basically a polyurethane floor. And he put the compound on there and he brushed it in. And when he brushed it out, he was pretty amazed at what he saw from a clean point of view. It was a dry compound, no pre-spray, no other product were added to it. And it got us thinking about, well, what else could we do on the hard surface side that would show that? So the Carpet Cleaner America counter rotating brush machine, you see it here with our optional newer spray tank that we have on. That's an onboard sprayer. About 1.5 gallons of product can be put in there. And basically how the machine works is it's got two brushes that spin. One spins counterclockwise and one spins clockwise, depending on which way you're looking at the machine. And both of them are rolling towards the interior of the machine, and they're able to take up whatever they're picking up from the floor and put it into catch trays, which we happen to call renovator trays. And those renovator trays really make it a different type of unit from a CRB point of view, because we're able to capture the things that we actually pick up out of the carpet rather than putting them right back down. And that capturing ability gives us some versatility out in the marketplace. So we're able to do different things with it, not only pick up dry compound, not only go back after an encapsulation clean to do a dry extraction, if you will, if you've gone to the IICRC CCT courses. And so we've got some different sizes of machine that will show you and how that works. But this photograph that you see up here is product that was picked up dry out of a carpet using the CRB machine as a pile lifter. I don't know about you, but I had a certified pile lifter back in the day, and I spent a lot of money on it, and I used it twice. One time when I first bought it because I spent a lot of money on it, and I used it one more time to see if I could make it go faster. It really did a deep clean and got rid of a lot of dry material that was in the carpet, but it was simply too slow to continue trying to make money and perform things at a pretty rapid rate of speed. So the CRB became kind of like a pile lifter, even though we don't have a brass brush underneath and we don't have a single brush, but it moves a lot faster. So the productivity rate gets higher, and I'm able to get deeper into the carpet. And when we show you the new motion videos that we have on the brushes, you'll see why it works the way it actually works. So we've got several different sizes of machine. We've got a TM4 and a TM5. These are our dual handle machines. They are products that come up. The TM4 is 15 inches wide, two 15-inch brushes underneath, and the TM5 is 20-inch brushes underneath, two 20-inch brushes underneath. So we've got a lot of bristle tips down there in order to do that. They all come with a standard blue brush, which is about in the mid-range of our stiffness for the different brushes that we have. And then we have our smaller unit, our TM3, which is an extremely popular product designed to be, what does it go back there? There we go. Comes in the box with a stair handle. This is one of the only ways I've seen to actually get on stairs, whether they be carpeted, whether they be vinyl, whether they be tile and grout, in order to have something that's handheld that you can move across the stair and remove soil and do agitation and do some of the other things that I know we all like to do when we go out and clean things for other people. With the spray tank that we've added onto the material, onto the machine, it's a separate accessory that you can purchase from one of our distributors. It also comes with a brand new handle top for your machine. The reason it does that is because all of the electronics are in the handle. So there's a delivery button on the back side of the handle. It's a little red button that you see up here that you can push when you need it to add. And then basically it's a plug and play into the side of the spray tank in order to do that. And then the whole assembly just plugs into the outlet on the back of the TM4, the TM5, or our Pro 35 or Pro 45 machines. They all have that particular outlet on the back of them, so we have the ability to do that. So the handle top comes because that's where the electronics are located. So you simply put the handle top, it comes in the box with the spray tank in order to make that all go and work. So different is agitating that product with the optional spray tank, and then using that, you can put your pre-spray in there now. If you're going to go in and agitate before you hot water extract, you can simply put your favorite pre-spray inside and spray it out right ahead of the brush program there. We've got our internal Austrian polymer gear system designed for limited gear failure, and it's a safety mechanism to protect the motor. If you get something jammed up in there, you don't want to have the motor burn out. You want to have those gears protect that. But I've been told by some of the people who have purchased these that it is the best pet hair removal machine in the industry. Stuff that's gotten down deep into the carpet, because our bristle tips are going to go all the way down to the primary backing to be able to get that. So it's one of the best ones ever to be had. I remember when I worked at Bridgewater, we had one of our national reps call me, I think it was on a Sunday, and he mentioned that he had cleaned his carpet using the CRB machine, and he was amazed at all of the pet hair that he was able to pull up out of the carpet. And I said, well, that's really what the machine is designed for. He said, no, you don't understand. I don't have a pet. He had cleaned that carpet 10 other times with an extractor, and they never had a pet in the home, but he was pulling up, looked like German Shepherd hair from the people who had lived there before him, because he was never able to get that deep in the carpet until he used this type of brushing system to do that. And so that also works really well into the hard surface side of things, because the way the bristles are designed to go into the carpet, where you've got a cylindrical brush like this, rather than a rotary brush like you'd see on some other CRBs or 175 machines. And so we're able to get those bristle tips deeper into the carpet and deeper into the recesses of any other floor, like for example with tile and grout. With a rotary machine, the weight of the machine is going to keep the bristles balanced on the tiles, not allow them to flow down into the grout line. So the way that we attack the floor from a different angle gives us a lot more opportunity, even like I said, in the hard surface side. So what can it clean? This is what I love about this, because of the versatility of the product. Obviously, it's made for carpet. It does very well with carpet. It does very well with encapsulation. It's a great agitation tool and a great dry soil pickup tool. The tile and grout pieces you can see here. Now there we're working it with some dry compound, but you can also work it with some of your favorite tile and grout pre-sprays. Just make sure you clean up the bottom of the machine very well. And then you see with hardwood. So when Reg had this discovery of, hey, we threw it down on hardwood and it came out pretty nice, we decided to test that through. We wanted to just say, you know, I don't want to just take a one-off and look at it and go, gee, I wonder if it would work out in the field. We wanted to take it out in the field and make sure that it worked. So we did a couple more experiments locally in South Carolina, where we're from. And then we decided to talk to the carpet manufacturers, one of them being Shaw. And we wanted to go down to their laboratory, and we wanted to see, because they had situations where they were dealing with things that were very difficult for them, because they were moving away from dealing strictly with carpet. And as part of my job when I worked with Bridgewater was to be a liaison to the carpet industry, because I happen to have several friends and people I met when I was a volunteer in the industry doing things, and got to know them very well. And we trust each other. We give each other information back and forth. And so I was able to talk to Daryl Hagan at Shaw Industries, who kind of runs their lab down there. And we made arrangements to go down and show what it did. So we wanted to try a couple different things, not just site finished wood. We wanted to try pre-finished wood. And the reason we wanted to look at pre-finished wood was because pre-finished wood gave us some different challenges, right? If it's site finished, if you listen to what Scott said, you know, they install it properly, and then they sand it down, they stain it to get the color that the customer's looking for, and then they coat it with a polyurethane coating. So all the gaps between the boards are covered with polyurethane. And unless they have some really distinct humidity changes or things like that, it's probably going to stay pretty well together. And realistically, all you're cleaning in that space, you're not really cleaning a hardwood floor, you're cleaning a polyurethane floor. But with pre-finished wood, it's a little bit different. Those boards come already with color on them, and they're installed that way. But on the sides of the wood, where the tongue and groove is, and on the bottom, there's no finish there. So even casual contact with water can be tricky, because if I get any moisture in between the boards, that's where Scott mentioned you're going to start to see some swelling action take place. I did water damage for a lot of years, and I know what happens to a hardwood floor when you get it wet and it swells up and pushes the wall off the toe plate, because it has so much pent up energy in order to do that. So we knew that that was going to be a problem. So we went down, and we'll show you what we found with Shaw. So we like looking at that from a carpet point of view. We like looking at the residential and commercial tile and grout. Now, again, let's be realistic here. If you're talking about a restaurant kitchen, this is not something we recommend doing with absorbent compound. We're not looking to say, oh, it'll take the place of anything else you're doing. In a casual residential kitchen or a hotel lobby where you've got some outside soils and maybe a little bit of residue from their cleaning apparatus, I think it would do a remarkable job. But in a specific situation like a restaurant kitchen, that's when you want to go get your pressure tools and some of the other things that are going to work much better and much faster in that particular environment. So we looked at the hardwood piece, and then we were inquired by the folks at Shaw. They said, well, if it does this well on wood, what would it do on luxury vinyl plank, luxury vinyl tile? Because we're having a lot of challenges dealing with those types of products out in the field. And so you can see on ceramic tile, you've got a great agitation tool. You can get a lot of detergent down underneath it. You can let the machine run a little bit, let those bristles go down and agitate those spaces where they want to go, especially on uneven type materials, because the way the bristle tips hit the floor, you're going to be getting a lot of movement and you're going to be getting a lot of bristle tips across that entire section. The challenges are, when I first got into working with commercial spaces and things like that, here's what I recognized. A lot of the tools that we use to clean floors are flat, and a lot of the floors aren't flat. And so because of that, we've got to adjust the tools that we use, because a flat tool is not going to clean a floor that has undulations or recessed areas in it. Stamped concrete is a great example of that. I've talked to a lot of people that have, taken their red 3M 175 pad and put it down under their 175 single disc machine, and they can't get stamped concrete clean because they can't get that pad to go down into those recessed areas. And that's where the cylindrical brush option really starts to make some headway. The dry compound piece, it's an absorbent, and that's kind of how we look at this. It's an absorbent product. Now, where I think some folks have maybe painted themselves into a corner with this stuff, I'm not going to be one to tell you, because I've been in this industry way too long to make statements that I can't back up, right? I'm going to say in its lane, this is a very good product. But if I try to compare it to your HydraMaster truck mount, I might fail miserably here. And so I want to say, in conjunction with, in addition to, in place of, or certain time frames, the dry compound makes a lot of sense as an absorber. If you've got an oily carpet and you've got a lot of asphalt oils or some other types of things that have come in there, or even an oily luxury vinyl floor, for example, in order to clean that with water, I've got to break that oil down. I've got to emulsify it. I've got to break it into smaller droplets so the water can carry that product away. But with dry compound, I can simply absorb it. So if I can get that product spread across the entire area and I can absorb that, I don't have to use high pH products in order to emulsify it. So again, in its lane, it works extremely well. Where I see products like this working well, especially on carpet, would be 5 to 10 feet past the walk-off mat when you've got an asphalt parking lot outside on a regular basis, so that I can keep that area looking nice and clean all the way through it. So that's where we see the advantages of that type of product. On the hard surface side, this came to be because dealing with that pre-finished hardwood, which we're going to show you a little bit what we did at Shaw, we didn't want to get any water on the floor at all, because we knew that if we got water on the floor, we could get that swelling and cause those issues. So this is where we went with the dry compound clean, and we saw a nice response to that. So the idea is you want to get it on the floor, right? You want to broadcast it. This little device we have here is just something from a restaurant supply. It's for fishing chicken wings out of a fryer. It does very well in our 20-pound bucket to broadcast the product onto the floor. And then it's a two-step process from there. You brush it in, and then you brush it out. Right, so you're going to take the renovator trays off, or the brush in portion of this, so that we're leaving the product on the floor and we're not gathering it at any point in time until we're ready to, and then distributing that product with the agitation machine all across whatever floor you decide to work on, whether it's luxury vinyl, whether it's hardwood, whether it's tile and grout, or in some cases whether it's carpet. And then to pick it up, we put the renovator trays on, and then we go back and we do a brush out process. Now on carpet, we're going to get 99.9% of it out with the way our brushes actually hit on the carpet. With the hard surfaces, you're going to have a little less pickup, because I'm relying on a brush bristle, and I don't have that tuft that's helping me get that product back up closer to the renovator tray. So we may have to go back with a mop or a microfiber flat mop or something like that and pick up the excess material that may be on the floor. So when I called our friends at Shaw, this is Denny Payne, who's one of the Shaw Product Care people. One of the things that they were experiencing out in the field was the Shaw Product Care Group goes out and solves problems for new installations that happen out in the field. And they've got people that are flying all over the country dealing with these things. And the biggest thing they came in contact with was sheetrock dust on a new installation of whether it's luxury vinyl or wood in a commercial setting, because they put the floor in and then they do the build out with the walls and everything else around it. And so we went down to their laboratory. This is in Dalton, Georgia. And we made sheetrock mud on the hardwood that they installed on a test floor for us. And we and we let it dry for 24 hours. And we went back the next day and we decided to see what the dry compound was going to do. And so the other thing that we did, which I thought was rather unique, was we didn't use their standard blue brushes like you see here. We went right to the black brush. We went right to the stiffest brush that we have in our Pro Series, because they wanted to know that the brush also didn't scratch the surface of the wood. Whatever their finish is on the top of their pre-finished wood, we want to make sure that our polypropylene bristle didn't cause any scratching on that, because then they said they have way more problems than they would just getting the soil off the floor. And we did not put any scratches on that floor whatsoever. So here's the brush in phase. We're brushing it in. We're moving the product around as a broadcast. Because of the way our bristle tips hit the floor, we're getting down into those grooves in between the boards. We're getting down into the grain. We're getting down in those other areas where some of the other rotary products simply aren't going to be able to get there. And then we put our renovator trays on. We went back and did a brush out system. And that was our end result from getting rid of the dried on drywall mud. And they were very impressed with that, because there's very little risk here. And that's the thing. We always go, whenever Scott does a hardwood class, we go in there for about 10 or 15 minutes. He invites us in and we show him these same slides to let him know that if you're really concerned about taking a risk about getting something wet, you really have another option for this. And so this has actually become Shaw's go-to product and go-to process for going out in the field when they have this type of situation. They were cleaning it with water-based cleaning processes. And what they were finding is, as the sheetrock dust got more wet, it went deeper into the floor, and they were just mopping it around. They weren't able to extract it out and remove that. So this became their featured process. Because once I came out well, we decided to do the other side, and we just went through the exact same process, and we just cleaned it up very nicely. We did take like I said, a dry mop and went over that to remove any of the spent compound before they put it back into play. So we decided to go out on a tour then, and we decided this was at the Experience Show. I think it was one of the last ones that we did down in Clearwater Beach, Florida. This is the second floor lobby of the Hilton. I think it's on one of the landings. This is a non-slip textured finished porcelain tile that they had put in their lobby area so nobody slipped and fell coming off the beach. And they were having a devil of a time getting it clean because of all the recesses in the material. These 4 tiles here were cleaned just using the dry compound, no pre-spray, no other process whatsoever. They were just the dry compound product that went in there. So again, is it perfectly clean? No, but is it easier for our bristles to get down into those recessed areas? Yes. I would probably add a pre-spray. They want to see it without that, just to make sure that we had, those little areas there that were done a little better. But look at the difference night and day between what people were seeing. And they looked at it and they thought it was clean before we started. And you can really, so in those textured things, those things with a lot of space in them, that's where we want to see this process work very, very well. And then we got to a situation at another Mikey's Fest. This was in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Because it had worked so well at the Scottsdale event the year before, we got invited back to the Minneapolis event. This is the first one I was able to attend. And I found that, cleaning that building for people who needed somebody to step into their lives and help them at a certain point in time was extremely rewarding. And I really enjoyed the opportunity to be there. So I thank the Mikey's Fest folks for allowing me to do that. But this was a sport court that was down in one of the areas, about a 3/4 size basketball court that was there for the families to enjoy while they were staying at the Ronald McDonald House. And we did this entire court with dry compound, no pre-spray, nothing else, 2 of our Pro Series machines. And you can see right here where we stopped. And the floor was squeaky clean when we were done. Basketball players make that squeaky noise with their shoes. We were able to do that with our shoes just by looking at that. And it's from another angle, cleaned versus not. And we were, we're looking at this going, there's something really viable here in areas where I don't want to use water for whatever reason. I'm thinking elderly care facilities. I'm thinking a lot of places, especially on hard surfaces where I don't want to get that surface wet, especially if the building's being used or something like that. We certainly have the opportunity to see some different things. spent compound with the soil in it versus new compound ready to go to work and make that happen. So we started getting calls from a lot of other places that wanted to take a look at this. And this was a demo that was done by a salesperson out in the field. And what I noticed right away was they had the renovator trays on while they were brushing it in. Didn't give the product enough time to be on the floor. And I said, it's better for the brushes if you go with the grain of the luxury vinyl rather than across it, because allow those bristle tips to get down in that space and do what those bristle tips actually need to do so that they can be in that recessed area longer to remove more soil from that spot. So I just want to show you really quickly how these bristles work when you go through this process, right? So this is, just going to turn that volume down here, yeah. Look at how the bristles are working. They're going to the outside of the machine. You can see how they're coming around from the front and going into the renovator tray. But I want you to notice how they begin to flatten out right in this region here. That elongated bristle is working down into that recessed area, allowing more time for the bristle to come in contact with the soils on the floor. So as it gets picked up here and comes around the top, that's when it'll get deposited in the renovator tray, which will be landing over here. You'll see that red indicator bristle coming around. That's how low you can let the brushes get before you have to be replacing them. So you can see that the weight of the machine causes that flexing in the brush, and that's what you really want to see happen to get down in those recessed areas. The stiffer bristles aren't going to bend as much, and you might get limited amount of time. So even if the brown or the black stiffer brush doesn't get the soil completely out of that recessed area, go to a softer bristle, give it that bristle tip more time to be in that space, and then see what happens from there. So that's a side view of this. And now this is a 15-inch machine. Each brush has 12,000 bristle tips on each side. So underneath this machine right here, I've got 24,000 bristle heads going into that space. Now, when you see this coming from the opposite side, no, I want you to stop there and go to the next slide. Yeah, okay, here. Now, from the forward view, we see this again. And now you can see along this edge, there is no space in here that's being left behind by any of the bristles. Now, they're chevrons, so they're going to be staggered a little bit. They're going to come from either direction. And you can actually see, if you watch very closely, some of the material that's being picked up out of this plank is being tossed out in front of the machine, where normally this would be our renovator tray right here that would capture that. So the slow motion shows you that across this width of 24,000 bristle tips, you're not going to miss anything. That's the real key here for hard surfaces. I've got a tool that's going to get down into that space and not allow anything to sneak past it. So the weight of the machine is causing that curvature of the bristle. I know I'm getting down into those recessed areas because, and you can see now more and more of that product that we're lifting up out of those low-lying areas are coming back in front of the machine. They're coming over the top of the bristles here. So that's exactly how that machine works, and that's exactly how that machine is supposed to work in order to give you that nice wide coverage. Now, our 20-inch wide brush, you're going to have 32,000 bristle tips on that floor moving across that area. You're not going to, you notice there's just not one open spot here. You're getting complete coverage across the entire volume of material there. Right, so more heavily soiled conditions, this is where I might decide, you know, I want to use my encapsulation product along with my dry compound at the same time. And so I'm going to use my favorite HydraMaster pre-spray, my favorite HydraMaster in-cap product, and I'm going to put it down, and then I'm going to put my dry compound right over the top of it, and I'll do a brush in of both of those materials together at one time. Agitate without the renovators attached, getting that area fully broadcast and agitated. And then I put my renovators back on and I remove the material, right? Because they're spinning in the direction of allowing it to fall into the renovator trays. So that is the idea of how that process works. I put my contact information here in case you want to take a picture of that. If you've got any questions along the way as to how this process works or what can be done for that. please go ahead and contact me at any point in time. I'm more than happy to share information with you. And Doyle, I guess I'll go ahead and see if we've got any questions from the group about what we just covered.
Yes, Dane, we do. Hang on just a second.
Okay.
All right. Number one, is the machine UL listed?
Listed by CE, correct. It's the worldwide UL.
Okay. Is it the same dry compound for all hard surface floors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we only manufacture one particular compound. Now, what we do with that compound is a little unique. We triple filter that product so that the smaller particle doesn't make it into the bucket. We only want the larger particles coming in contact with the floor because the larger particulate is much easier for us to pick up off the floor.
All right, then the next question I think you may have to expand on because I'm not sure when they're talking about, and that's what should we charge to use this machine for cleaning per square foot? So comment a little bit about, you talked about cleaning 4 or 5 different surfaces. So can you share a little bit about pricing on some of those surfaces?
Well, pricing is a very subjective subject matter, and so if I say one way, it's going to offend somebody. If I say another way, it's going to. So I'm going to kind of stay in the middle ground here as much as I can. The idea is you have to know what it costs you in order to use it. So you have to take into account your labor rate, the way, how fast your labor actually performs the services, those kinds of things. But I would imagine if you're charging by the square foot, and let's stay with carpet, for example, I would want to get, just as a deep vacuuming machine to go back and do a pile lift, I'd want to be at least 5 to 7 cents a square foot for that alone. And then if I'm going to agitate my pre-spray, that depends on the package that you're selling the client, whether it's part of that deal or not. If it's going to be a separate, a la carte item, I want to be at the same 5 to 7 cents per square foot that I'm agitating. And again, that is very subjective as far as pricing goes. So you want to do some testing with it, find out how much productivity rate you have, and then base your pricing on that rather than just, some number that we pull out of the sky.
All right, this is a great question. What's the best way to clean the brushes, specifically removing pet hair?
There's an old thing that I used to have back when I did a lot of carpet shampooing, and I'm going back a ways with this one. It was called a brush comb. It was something that I bought at a janitorial supply house that was almost looked like a rat tail comb, but it only had 5 or 6 prongs on it, and they were made of metal. And you can take that comb and you can go right down by the brush core and just pull that hair right off of the machine, right off the brush itself to do that. Those are great tools for that. Or I've also seen, because it's hard to get in between our rows of bristles here because they're all kind of staggered a little bit. But the brush comb would work best because you're going in from the top of the bristle and pulling it that way. That would be the best tool I could see to do that.
All right. How about, can you use this for cleaning gym floor mats?
Gym floor mat. Oh, like the portable mats for.
Yeah, they would be the vinyl mats. Yeah, I would think they're talking about.
It depends on what they're using the mats for, I guess. My son is big into judo, and they apply a lot of disinfecting agents to those mats because there's a lot of people on those mats with their faces being pushed in or whatever. And I don't know that I would look at this as a way to, apply a disinfecting agent to those. But if I'm just cleaning the soils from them, I would think it would be a reasonable one. Just make sure that you match the brush to how thick that vinyl is. If that vinyl's thin, I want a pretty soft brush on there. So we do sell 2 brushes softer than the blue, which are gray and white, gray being the next stiffness and then white being very soft.
All right. How does a Chicago Bears fan end up living near Aaron Rodgers?
Wow. I guess bad luck would be the only thing I could come up with there. I've been a Chicago Bear fan since I grew up there many years ago. I've never changed. Now I live amongst Packer fans. And so I tip my cap to them. They've had some good seasons, but, it'll come back eventually. 1985 will return at some point.
Okay. You kind of addressed this question. What color brushes work on a CRB for which hard surface floors?
Well, it's not necessarily for which hard surface floors, it's how stiff they are, right? If I want a really stiff brush, which means you're going to get less bend in the brush, in the bristle itself, that would be for areas where I want to get a very good scrubbing action. So that would be our brown brush typically, or black if you've got a Pro Series machine. That's the stiffest brush we have. The blue is really the workhorse of the entire field of brushes. That's why we put one on every machine, because it's going to do 90 to 95% of everything that you need to do. It's medium stiff, but if I've got a loop pile commercial carpet, I probably want to go brown. If I've got, a deep, heavily soiled porcelain tile and cement-based grout, I might even go with the black at that point. But it just depends. Test the brush on the surface to see. These are polypropylene bristles. They usually don't scratch anything this very hard.
Coverage on the dry powder application on a commercial carpet. How many
It's
square
about
feet?
300 square. Yeah, about 300 square feet per pound.
Okay, and would
Sometimes
that
a little
change
more, again, depending on soil. What I like to do with the dry compound is keep it in the traffic lanes, because it's easier to pick up if you don't get it too close to the wall. That's a tip you'll learn the hard way the first time. But keep it near the traffic lanes, you'll be getting more coverage from it than you would if you spread it over the entire area.
Okay, can you use a CRB machine to strip wax from wood floors?
I'd love to say yes, but I just don't think it's a great application for that. The 175 machine, that's where it really shines in that space. And I'm a big fan of, when you get a tool in your hand, stay in your lane. The CRB is great for a lot of other things, but that's just not one of the areas that's comfortable for me.
All right, and then
would it do?
Our last question was, talk about using CRBs in hotels.
Well, it's going to cover any hotel surface that you have. And what I like about it is, because if I'm looking at carpet, for example, in a guest room, it's basically the amount of time it takes me to vacuum that carpet twice to get that carpet clean. So my production rate is very high, but I also can't wait, and do it once a year and expect it to come out clean without slowing that machine down. So what you gain in productivity, you lose in the fact that I've got to go in more often with a low moisture system. So to compare it to what I can do with a truck mount, they're not apples to apples. They're both going to clean, but we're better situated for lesser amounts of soil. So yeah, in a hotel is great, because the thing that hotel managers are interested in hearing is that I can put that room back in inventory tonight rather than waiting until tomorrow.
Exactly.
And as we ramp back up in society and everybody gets vaccinated and we can start traveling again, getting those hotel rooms back in session are going to be good. So okay, that's what makes the managers.
What's the best way to contact you?
Email is the best way, because I'm in and out of a lot of places and doing a lot of classes and things. So the Dane at carpetcleaner-usa.com email works out every time. And the
Carpet Cleaner USA's website is got a dash in it, right?
If they want to go to carpetcleaner-usa.com.
Okay. Well, Dane, thank you so much for joining us. I can't believe how much information you covered in 40 minutes. Holy smokes. That was, I mean, you were rolling. Do you have an online SMT class coming up if somebody's interested?
The one I've got scheduled is in April. It's on the Aramco site. But until then, they can hear you and me. We did an interview with Mr. Bloss not that long ago on my podcast called Keep It Clean.
Yeah, tell them about that. Tell them about your podcast, especially if yesterday was History Day. If they love the History Day, they'd love your podcast.
Well, it's basically talking to my really old friends like Doyle that have been around in this industry for a long time, and it's talking about their startup stories. And that's what I love about it is I'm talking to Tom Hill, I'm talking to Larry Cooper. I just finished the next one that's coming up. I'm going to give you a sneak peek here. It was Claude Blackburn from Dry East Products, the founder of that. Doyle is currently being out in the marketplace right now, and he told us a lot of stuff about the early truck mount things that were happening out there. And when he actually cleaned carpet for a living, which the stories are hilarious, but I want some of the newbies in the world to hear some of these older guys' startup stories to become inspired by those, and that's what the Keep It Clean podcast is. So it's not just old guys. I've even got a couple of interviews I've just done with current people who are in the field now that are working at things to just have an interesting story to tell. So if you're interested in hearing some of those stories, just look it up. It's on iTunes, and you can put it up there. Keep It Clean.
Fantastic. Well, Dane, I appreciate you joining us today. Incredible amount of information in a short period of time. As always, I know that you've got everybody's best interest at heart. You love to see cleaning and restoration companies grow their businesses with any and every opportunity that they can grab onto and be successful at. So thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Doyle. Good luck, everybody. Have fun.